The NBA draft continues to inch forward, which will mark the start of the Sixers offseason and their first opportunity to add talent to this win now squad. There continue to be reports circulating regarding the Sixers' intent on trading the pick, and there was some more speculation lately spread on 97.5 The Fanatic, where Kai Carlin joined the program there. So I want to dive into what specifically he said. This is a common name that has been thrown out there in attachment to the Sixers for some obvious reasons and what a key piece he would be. But I do want to talk about the legitimacy of it, the chances of this occurring, and why I'm not as optimistic as I wish I could be on the situation. And that is, of course, speaking about Alex Caruso here. So to dive into what Kai Carlin specifically said here, he said, quote, "I don't think the Sixers keep the number 16 pick in the draft. I think they trade that pick away for a win-now player. Alex Caruso is the immediate name that comes to my mind. If you're the Sixers, you have to at least give the Bulls a call to see if he's available." So for sure, the Sixers should be doing their due diligence and picking up the phone and calling Chicago. The unfortunate reality, Chicago not a incredibly well-run organization, and we're going to see a primetime example of that with Alex Caruso. That Chicago front office is very complimentary of themselves for the process that they came to add Alex Caruso and him playing above his salary level there. Now, what the true outlook should be is that you have a positive asset, a player that is necessary and could be important to win now teams. You should be looking to fetch the best return to put your franchise in a better spot moving forward. That does not seem to be their outlook with Alex Caruso. And for what it's worth here, Zach LaVine is going to be a key part of the equation, as that is the player that they would like to dump. So I do want to start it with talking about Caruso, who specifically he is, and why he would be such an obvious fit on the Sixers team, but why I'm not overly optimistic. Let's start by pulling up his stats here. And just this season, him averaging 10.1 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.0 block, 1.7 steal. Shot 46.8% from the field and 40.8% from three. He shoots 39.7% on corner threes. Still 30 years old, 6'5", 89% of his threes being assisted, and 61.6% of his shots occurring from beyond the three-point line there. So a lot of good to break into, and for what it's worth, he's not a guy who I think's best traits shine in the box score. Defensively, and his ability to move on the perimeter, for me, is the calling card of his game. That I did some decent homework diving into what specifically the level that he's playing at and how he impacts winning in this current state. During last year at the deadline, he was a guy that I had circled on my Sixers wish list, and really the conversation that I was trying to break down and debate in my head is what is the margin of difference in regards to defensive impact between DeAnthony Melton and Alex Caruso, and my ultimate conclusion is it's pretty notable that Alex Caruso is a head and shoulders better defender and a guy that I do think is necessary to some winning teams. Now, what tones down my optimism for an actual deal getting done is the price tag. For starters, the Bulls have not traded an active player since 2021. The front office has not there, which, again, I think is organizational malpractice. And in regards to Caruso, who they clearly view very highly, this being reported as of last year's trade deadline, that trading Zach LaVine still seems to be the priority for the Bulls, as the star shooting guard is on a massive contract and doesn't seem to be in their future plans anymore. But while the Bulls may want to trade LaVine, most teams around the league are more interested in Alex Caruso. Chicago has shut down talks for Caruso, deeming him virtually untouchable. Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports recently reported that it would take, quote, multiple first-round picks for the Bulls to even consider moving Caruso, noting that the Milwaukee Bucks would love to add him. Quote, Alex Caruso would mark a dream outcome for the Bucks, but Chicago has indicated that the Bulls will need multiple first-round picks to even consider parting with Caruso, according to league sources, if Chicago even truly considers moving him at all, Fisher wrote. So it does seem like the Bulls have opened their minds a little bit to being open for business since that point, that being at the deadline. But they have a lot of questions this offseason as well. Number one, DeMar DeRozan is a free agent. Will he be back? There does seem to be interest there. But for me personally, I just don't understand the logic between running it back with a team that is likely capped out at being a play-in level team. That I don't think this same team is capable of growing together in a way that can make them true contenders. And I think the best route is to take a couple steps back, maybe retool, figure out what are the best pieces to put around guys like Kobe White, and build from the ground up there. That would involve moving Alex Caruso. Now, the biggest storyline and why this is possible, it is the potential movement of Zach LaVine. That is the guy the Bulls seem antsy to get off the contract. And they also seem potentially open to attaching assets to him to make him more desirable to other teams. That we got this report earlier this offseason saying that according to Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago, the Bulls might have to add other assets to LaVine's contract just to trade him. Quote, there's a growing feeling among rival executives that the Bulls may have to attach another asset to move LaVine, something sources said the Bulls have been hesitant to do at this point. An alternative could be to merely move LaVine as a salary dump for expiring contracts, although NBC Sports Chicago has previously reported the Bulls weren't at this stage yet. Plus, of course, it would take another team willing to do that. So that is where these conversations come together. We have a very appealing contract in Alex Caruso, who I do believe is a win-now player, and you know exactly what his role can be. And a bit of a different story with Zach LaVine, who has obviously battled injury, has played far better basketball in certain years, but certainly seems to be at the low point for his NBA outlook. This could be a situation in which I think the team is buying the dip and getting a player that is going to outperform expectations in a massive way, that has the talent but needs a new setting. Or this could be a situation in which you burn yourself for a couple years, and that is where the risk comes in. Now, to adjust the contracts specifically, I want to start with Caruso here, that he's in the final year of his contract, under $10 million on the cap hit there. That is a bargain deal, 7.01% of the cap for a guy who certainly can be a player who is logging major minutes in the playoffs, a guy that is in your starting rotation and being complimentary of your stars. That is a great bargain price, something that I think he will get a hefty paycheck next summer, but for the time being would be worth it and is an appealing cap hit there. Then the other side of the coin is Zach LaVine, and there's longer years attached to that as well. That his remaining contract, he is on the books for $43 million this year, $45.9 million next year, and then a player option for $48.9 million in the 26-27 season. So you could potentially be looking at 3 years of Zach LaVine, which is a good or a bad thing, depending on how you view Zach LaVine here. Now, to talk about LaVine specifically and what he brings to this team, just this season, he averaged 19.5 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, 3.9 assists, shot 34.9% from three, which is a bad year for him, 45.2% from the field overall. Still just 29 years old. He did shoot 45.2% on corner three-point attempts, 52.5% of his three-pointers were assisted, and 44.9% of his shots occurred from beyond the three-point line there. There was a point in time in which Zach LaVine was a real deal all-star, a very good player. But it has been a couple years since we've seen the best version of him on the basketball court. I do think he's a guy who absolutely needs a new setting, and a team could be getting a bargain, but it is quite the risk to take. That more so than just bringing Zach LaVine in, what you're doing is sacrificing these potential other avenues with Paul George, with Jimmy Butler, with LeBron James, that taking on that cap hit would clog up the necessary space that would to take in those players. And what makes this such a difficult decision for the Sixers specifically is that the draft is going to occur before the gates of free agency open, before they have a true opportunity to pitch to Paul George, that we can just give you all this type of signing. And frankly, there is not the necessary contract on the Sixers roster to make a deal occur with Zach LaVine, which they would have to work some sort of sign and trade there. That's going to have to wait till after the draft as well. So this is where these conversations get difficult. If there were an opportunity to directly flip the 16th pick for Alex Caruso, the Sixers should do that 10 times out of 10, but I don't expect them to turn away from Caruso for just that price. Now, I'm personally of the mindset where I want the Sixers to use this pick. Tristan da Silva continues to climb up my dream list of Sixers targets. There's plenty of other names out there, the Devin Carters of the world. There's Jared McCain. There's plenty of names that could impact this Sixers team. Plenty of other guys I'm hoping for, the Dalton Connects of the world. I will be diving in deeper on the draft prospects as things continue to inch closer on here. But the bottom line being, there's a lot of win-now pieces in this draft. So say they take one. That's going to be a player that could potentially be appealing in this type of trade once free agency opens, or you do see that there is not a window to improve through free agency and need to attack the trade market with Chicago. That could be an option that takes place. But the bottom line is the more young talent, the better. And I do think the Sixers should be hesitant on just giving away this pick. I do ultimately expect them to do some maneuvering around the draft. Wouldn't shock me if they slide all the way down into the second round, trading out of that 16th pick for salary reasons, that there's a designated $4 million cap hit to that specific pick at the 16th pick. If they slide down to the second round, all those become non-guaranteed, and you can get them at a cheaper price there. So it wouldn't surprise me if Morey tries to be cost-effective there. The bottom line for me is don't waste the 16th pick. There's a ton of win-now talent that they should be utilizing, and while Alex Caruso absolutely fits that bill, he's going to cost more than just that. So for having the pick, this is an opportunity to bring in some young talent, maybe look to take advantage of it a little bit more than I think the Sixers are truly weighing the decision. That does not mean I'm shutting the door on Alex Caruso, but I don't think things are going to align in which he is available on draft night at the Sixers' dispense. It also would not shock me if a team comes out of the clouds with a stronger price point to work with than the Sixers are willing to. I do think ultimately Caruso gets traded for multiple first-round picks. That's a lot for him, absolutely, but that's just the reality of the situation, that there is such a premium for these elite high-level role players, and that's why it is difficult to have this role player plan, which I see people talking about all the time, is that these guys get paid. Think about Bruce Brown making $25 million this year. Bruce Brown, a very good player, but is he half of Paul George? Probably not in terms of things. And yes, you can make the argument that, of course, adding more players beyond that, you can add it up or that type of thing and having the more players, but the bottom line is that when you are that level of elite role player, that, there's more of a demand than a supply for those types of talent, you're going to come out a beneficiary of that and make quite a bit of money. That's going to be the case for Alex Caruso next offseason, and I think that could be the case in the trade market right now. So let me know what you guys think. Once again, I would love to have Alex Caruso on the Sixers team, but I am a little skeptical of the logistical pathway to getting him on the roster. So let me know what you guys think. I think 2 first-round picks I ultimately probably would still be willing to do, but I don't think it makes sense to pull the trigger on draft night, and I am curious how Zach LaVine fits into this entire puzzle as a whole. So drop your thoughts below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Drop a like on this video, and make sure you subscribe to keep the Digest family growing. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, and talk to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.